have gone over every single part of the essay format, and then you're good to go. We don't need any more instruction. We can just work one-on-one if we need to. Okay? So, what does the conclusion need? You need to summarize or talk about the main points of your essay. All right? So, what did you hit in your essay? What did you talk about? What were like the 3, 4, 5 main points that you hit? All right? So, those were the different prompts. So, what did you talk about? Tie back to your intro paragraph. It should always tie back. It should not be anything like too new in information. Wrap it up with a final thought. What's the last thing you want to say on this topic? These are controversial issues for a reason, okay? You all have an opinion about them. So what's the last thing you want your audience to hear about this? All right? If you choose kind of like a lame sentence, that's the last thing you want to say about this? Really? Okay? What's a call to action? What is something that you want the reader to do now? Okay? So like remember in that the concluding sentence example I gave you about teachers who assign too much homework? And I said, therefore, teachers need to take into account how much time they're limiting their students to extracurricular activities. My call to action was to teachers to be like, yo, consider how much homework you're assigning. Okay? What is your call to action? What do you want to be done? What do you want the reader to do? What changes do you think should be made? Okay? Remember your transition words. In summary, finally, okay, in conclusion. Transitions are huge for your essay. All right, sample conclusion. Let's take a look at this really quick. So, after looking at all the facts, the United States does in fact place more value on the prison system than education. Authors Daniel, Ameti, and Johnson. So, those would be like resources I had quoted, let's say. Okay, I'm just summarizing what they all said. Daniels, Ameti, and Johnson all present valid arguments, including the fact that more money is spent each year on prisoners than public students, and budget cuts more often hit schools than prisons. And even though the counter-argument is that those kept in prison are harmful to society, the evidence still shows that a minuscule amount of funding is spent in-prison education. Do you know what I mean by that? Because if you're in prison, you still have a right to education. So if you're a juvenile in prison, or you're a prisoner who never got a GED, you have the right to that education in prison. Okay, so like I could go get a teaching job in prison if I wanted to. So I'm still saying the evidence still shows that a tiny amount of funding is spent in education within prisons. In conclusion, our society needs to emphasize the importance of education before that of incarceration. Okay? Do you see my call to action at the end there? I'm saying we need to place education ahead of incarceration. It's the last thing I want to say about the topic. Okay? Here, this is kind of my transition, right? Okay? I'm summarizing my arguments. I'm kind of hitting my counter arguments. Okay, I'm tying it all back into the thesis right here. And then lastly, this is the last thing I want to say. Okay? You're not really putting in any new info here. You shouldn't hit me with a random fact. I shouldn't be like, oh, that was needed way above in the body paragraphs. And this is you summarizing all of your arguments, okay? Restating your thesis, giving me your call to action. All right, that's all a conclusion is. You're wrapping it up. Does anyone struggle specifically with conclusions? A lot of people do. My seniors are like, I don't know how to say this. Okay, Rachel, is there something that you struggle with in particular?
I feel like I struggle with the strength of the conclusion. Like, I feel like I'm just, like, throwing all of my points and then saying, like, well, like, this is what you should think. Mm-hmm. Instead of, like, I don't know.
Okay. So, you're summarizing your main points, correct?
Yeah.
But you're not going to be like, I said this, this, and this. You're going to tie it up in a way that makes it so that you're still pushing your argument.
Okay.
So like in this, for example, I'm saying they all present valid arguments, including the fact that more money is spent each year on prisoners and public students and budget cuts. Okay, so I'm kind of like reinforcing the facts. Mm-hmm. And then I say, and even though the counter-argument is that those kept in prison are harmful to society, the evidence still shows that a minuscule amount of funding is spent in prison education. Okay? So I'm just finding ways to kind of restate that purpose, because remember when we read all of that stuff in the Age of Reason and I was like, why would he restate his purpose? in order to strengthen his argument, to remind you what he's arguing, correct? Same thing you do in an essay. You're restating your things again to get that last one-time bit of like, here's why we should think this. You're just reinforcing your argument one last time. Okay? All right. If you really were into that highlighting activity I did with you guys with the body paragraphs, look at your own thesis and kind of label the 3 main important parts, okay? The review of the thesis, all right? So your thesis statement should be clear, again, in your conclusion, not word for word. Review of your main points, so the 3 or more reasons and pieces of evidence you wrote about, and where the conclusion wraps it up with a final thought, okay? If you are concerned your conclusion is weak or it's not in the right format, just look for those 3 components. All right, Joe.
How many pages does it have to be?
I'm not giving you a page limit or requirement. It needs to be 5 paragraphs at least. Okay? That means 3 body paragraphs. If you have a 4th grade point, do 4 and have 6. Okay? I can tell if your explanation of how your quote proves your point or if your rebuttal of the counter argument is not strong, I can tell that and you're just going to get marked down. Okay?
And if you use it well, do you have to like cite where you got it?
Yes, you have to have a works cited. Okay? You need to have a works cited. We're going over tomorrow. We're going over bibliography and stuff. Okay? The works cited and things like that. Max?
Should we, so each quote should have a cite at the end, and then that's along with the works cited page.
Yeah, so your in-text citation is just the last name of the author of the article that you are citing. Okay? Your works cited is at the very end, and that's when you'll use like EasyBib or something to create your MLA works cited format, which we'll go over tomorrow. Don't worry about that. I would be keeping track of the links you used just to help you for right now. This is your rubric. I'll put it up on Canvas, okay? Oh, it's Page. Dang it.
Did we have like a PDF of, or something like an outline of the whole essay?
What do you mean?
Like did we, or like something, I don't know, did we go over where it said, never mind.
I wish that. Okay, it's kind of blurry, but I'll upload it in a different format because right now it's in Pages, which is for Mac. Okay? This is how you get an A on your essay. If you want an A, I suggest you pay attention. Okay? There's the focus and the claim. That's one criteria. Okay? So in your introduction, did you address all aspects of the prompt? Did you introduce precise, knowledgeable claim and a sophisticated thesis statement? So is your thesis clear? Did you use a formal objective style? If you use the words I, if you use something like I believe, if you are biased, if I can tell you obviously think a certain way and are not being objective, you'll get marked down. Okay? Organization. Skills orients reader to the topic in the introduction, skillfully orients, okay? So did you align what your essay is going to be about in your introductory paragraph? Or is your first body paragraph completely different than what your thesis said? Creates cohesion through use of linking words, phrases, and clauses, aka transitions. All right? Did you link your ideas? Strategic and logical progression of ideas from beginning to end with relevant body paragraphs. Is your essay all over the place? Yes, it's not going to get a 4. All right. Provides meaningful and reflective conclusion, which follows from and supports the claim. So in your concluding paragraph, did you follow form and did you support all the claims that you said? All right. Evidence. This is your textual evidence, your quotes. Did you provide substantial and important evidence? So Joe, like you were just asking, is there a length requirement? No, but if you did not provide enough substantial and important evidence to support your claim, you're going to get marked down. Okay? Easily and effectively integrates and cites credible sources in or text evidence. So did you correctly integrate and cite sources? All right? Is your quote completely different than what you're saying? Is your quote not cited correctly? Things like that. Analysis. This is where you show how your quote proves your point. Did you show insightful understanding of the topic? All right. Did you seem confused? Did you seem all over the place? You're not going to get a 4. Uses persuasive and valid reasoning to connect evidence with the claim. Okay. Did you use, was your elaboration of your quote, did it make that connection to your claim? Did it do that for you? Okay. Or are you still requiring me to make that connection? Do not summarize your quotes. You should explain how your quote proves your point. Did you address a counterclaim? Did you refute that counterclaim? So did you have a strong rebuttal? Did you skillfully use specific rhetorical devices to support assertions? We're talking more about this on Thursday. But did you use logic? Did you use emotion? Did you use all these things to support? How did you get your argument across? Okay, did you do a good job at that? Lastly, language. So it says your grammar, spelling, and punctuation. If you do not capitalize the first word of every sentence, okay, there's a whole section. Did you use correct sentence structure? All right. Was every sentence 6 words? And you said it was just very chunky. 6 words, 6 words, 6 words. Okay. You need to have something to make it interesting. Contains minimal to no errors and conventions, grammar, spelling, punctuation, capitalization. Strategically uses academic language and domain-specific vocabulary clearly appropriate for the audience and purpose. Okay. That means that, did you use a vocabulary word that you thought sounded good but you didn't really know it, and you threw it in your essay and it doesn't make sense? Because we'll do that sometimes, right? Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay? If you're talking about education versus prison, are you talking about budgets, financials? Are you using words like that in your essay? If you're not, then there's something wrong. Okay, that's all that's saying. If you're doing something medical, such as federal funding for reproductive health care, like you were talking about. Okay, are you using terms associated with that topic? Domain-specific vocabulary. That means vocabulary specific to that topic. Okay? That proves you have a showing of understanding. Questions on the rubric? I'll upload it tonight when I get home. It's on Pages, so I can't do anything about it. Yeah, Rowan.
This is not only about the rubric, but if we want to put more than the body paragraph of the already designated, do you want us to include that in our thesis?
No, but your remember your thesis statement is your stance on the topic. So, what's the topic you're doing?
Animal cruelty.
Okay, so argue whether or not animal testing should be legal. So you will say, I'm going to make up a thesis. Animal testing should not be legal. That's part 1 of your thesis, because everything you're saying in your body paragraphs. So what's that first claim?
I have, the first thing is unethical.
Because it's unethical, then the second, then the third, and then your 4th body paragraph. Those are the 4, if you're using 4 body paragraphs, you're going to have 4 things included in your thesis statement.
Yeah, because I have, because it's unethical, it involves violating government science, it's archaic, and it's unnecessary.
Okay. So then, be a little more specific in your thesis statement. Like, it's unethical because it's unethical for the animals. It's unnecessary because... Give me a little more information in your thesis.
Okay, so you would rather that be in the thesis than be directly in the line?
It needs to be in both. Because your thesis statement tells me exactly what you will be saying in your essay.
Is it okay to restate what you said in the thesis?
Yes. Yes. All right. Get to work.